Chapter 1. The Lure of the Sleeping Starship. The twin suns had barely risen above the jagged horizon, casting long violet shadows over the barren plains of Aurelia 9. Captain Elias Ryker crouched beside his battered starship, the Haven, its hull scorched from a miscalculated hyper-jump. The hum of its core thrummed faintly beneath the surface, a low, reassuring pulse that vibrated through the soles of his boots. He had opted to stay near the ship rather than risk the alien wilderness, and the cold, metallic scent of scorched alloys mixed oddly with the sweet, almost floral tang of Aurelia's native flora. Elias brushed dust from his jacket and leaned back against the hull, letting his eyes wander over the glowing tendrils of bioluminescent grass. He was alone. At least, he told himself he was. The wilderness was deceptively quiet, punctuated only by distant, high-pitched calls that sounded like wind through glass. He could feel the tension in his shoulders slowly unwind as exhaustion clawed at him. "Tomorrow," he muttered to the silent air, "we'll see if we can get you moving again." The stillness shattered with a flicker of movement, shimmering, silver figures emerging from the haze like liquid moonlight. Dozens of them. Huntresses. Their eyes glinted with a predatory glow, reflecting the sun's early light. Long limbs and muscle rippled beneath smooth, iridescent skin as they moved in unison, circling the Haven. Their weapons, curved alien blades and pulse rifles, were held loosely, yet every stance screamed readiness to strike. Elias rose slowly, hands open to show he meant no harm. "Morning," he said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline rushing through his veins. The Huntresses didn't respond. They didn't need to speak. The tension between them was a language all its own. Each step they took echoed softly against a metallic hull, a hypnotic rhythm that made his pulse quicken. One of them, a taller figure with luminous markings etched across her shoulders, stepped forward, tilting her head as if examining a specimen. "He sleeps beside the vessel," she hissed in a melodic, clicking tongue, words that seemed to vibrate through the air rather than float in it. The others shifted, hissing and murmuring among themselves. Elias caught fragments of the sounds, like a rhythm humans might dance to, and realized they were debating him, arguing, perhaps, over who would claim the ship or the human. He swallowed, letting a smile twitch at the corner of his mouth. "Well, I've been underestimated before," he said softly, moored himself into them, and bent down to tighten a loose panel on the ship. The Huntresses paused, their movements subtle, yet their collective gaze never left him. In that moment, he understood something fundamental. Humans survive where instincts rule with a mix of stubbornness and cunning, a blend of improvisation and audacity no alien code could predict. And as the suns climbed higher, painting the plains with violet and gold, Elias felt a thrill he hadn't felt in years. Alone, or so he thought, he wasn't just a stranded human anymore. He was a challenge, a puzzle, and the Huntresses were already circling, drawn by a ship by him and by something indefinably human. The air vibrated with tension, excitement, and the faint, unspoken promise of survival, and perhaps, for the first time, something like respect. Chapter 2. Trials of the Huntress Court. The alien settlement rose like a crystalline forest, towers of transparent alloy reflecting the twin suns into blinding, prismatic flares. Elias followed Kilira, the tall, silver-marked huntress, through narrow corridors that hummed with alien energy. The walls pulsed faintly, alive with bioluminescent filaments that reacted to movement, bathing the hallway in shifting teal and violet light. Every step echoed differently, as if the ship or the aliens themselves were listening, waiting. "Quiet," Kilira hissed, her eyes narrowing as two smaller huntresses flitted along overhead platforms, inspecting him. Her voice had a musical cadence, punctuated with clicks that humans could barely imitate. Elias swallowed, marveling at how even her whisper felt commanding. "You humans, fragile yet unafraid. Interesting." The council chamber opened suddenly, a wide amphitheater of floating platforms that hovered like constellations in zero gravity. Huntresses lined each platform, their iridescent bodies glinting, weapons at the ready but lowered in polite caution. Elias felt a jolt of awareness. He was the anomaly here, the single human in a sea of warriors bred for precision, honor, and death-dealing efficiency. Yet none of them seemed entirely certain whether to strike him down or study him like a rare comet. "Explain your claim," Kilira said, gesturing toward him. Her voice carried over the chamber, and the Huntresses responded with low, vibrating hums, a collective murmur of approval, doubt, and curiosity. Elias straightened chest tight, but mind racing. He gestured toward the haven, half-scorched but remarkably intact. "It's mine, by right of construction and survival. I built her, I flew her, and I sleep beside her. That, I think, counts for something in your honor codes." A sharp laugh echoed from the opposite side. A huntress with elongated limbs and sapphire tattoos stepped forward. "You, human, think you are clever enough to repair this vessel? You are no warrior. Why should we spare it? Or you?" Elias knelt beside a broken console, flipping it open to reveal the exposed circuitry, sparks dancing like fireflies in the alien light. "Watch closely," he said, a grin tugging at his lips. Within moments, he fashioned a crude but effective bypass using scavenged alloys and leftover circuitry from his survival kit. A soft hum pulsed through the console, the haven responding as if to say, "I am yours." The chamber filled with murmurs, clicks, and subtle hisses of astonishment. Kilira's eyes flicked toward him, narrowing with a mix of admiration and irritation. "He is unpredictable," she said, almost to herself, the words vibrating through the room. "And clever." Elias rose, brushing the sweat from his brow. "You see," he said evenly, "humans survive where brute strength fails. Adaptability, improvisation, stubbornness, things that matter far more than muscle alone." A tense silence followed, as the Huntresses regarded him anew. For the first time, Elias sensed possibility, not submission, not servitude, but respect. In their honor-bound society, he had carved space for himself. Human ingenuity against alien instinct. Kilira stepped forward, extending a hand, not to strike, but to propose an alliance. "You will join our trials," she said, "not as prey, as challenge." Elias's pulse quickened. The haven hummed beneath him, a steady heartbeat of metallic faith. This was his world now, precarious and alien, and already he could feel the thrill of being human in a universe built for warriors far stronger than him. Chapter 3: Zero-Gravity Duels and Heartbeats. The council chamber dissolved into a cavernous arena, a zero-gravity testing field suspended above the planet's violet plains. Platforms floated like islands in midair, connected by streams of glowing energy that pulsed in rhythm with the Huntress's heartbeat-like chatter. Elias flexed his fingers, feeling the hum of the haven beneath him through the thin communicator tether at his belt. Every nerve was alive, every instinct screaming that this was no ordinary challenge. Kilira hovered beside him, her silver-marked skin shimmering under the teal and violet light. "You must move differently here," she said, voice musical, low, almost teasing. "Your legs mean nothing without gravity, but your mind that you can wield like a weapon." Elias swallowed and glanced down at the floating weapons scattered across the platforms. Alien pulse rifles hummed with latent energy, their tips glowing blue. Curved blades floated lazily nearby, catching the refracted light in arcs of deadly beauty. The Huntress's eyes tracked his every movement, calculating, measuring. Elias could feel their disbelief when he casually twisted midair, launching himself toward a weapon, catching it in mid-spin with human reflexes honed by years of improvisation and risk. A chime echoed, signaling the start. Huntresses surged forward like liquid silver, blades whirling in arcs designed to cleave through bone. Elias dodged and countered with a combination of timing and unpredictability, using the platforms as shields, leveraging inertia and momentum in ways no alien had anticipated. Every missed strike was a lesson. Every narrow escape a proof that humans, fragile, soft, and seemingly weak, could adapt instantly to impossible odds. Not bad, Kilira called, her eyes flashing as she closed the distance. She moved differently than the others, fluid and precise, yet Elias noted something subtle, hesitation. Respect, perhaps, or curiosity. He sidestepped, twisting midair, and let a counterweight swing him toward an energy rail. The alien blade aimed at his side struck the rail instead, sending sparks into the zero-gravity expanse. Elias's chest heaved with adrenaline, and for a moment, their eyes met across the floating battlefield. "You're unpredictable," Kilira hissed, almost a whisper, yet it resonated across the arena, and irritatingly clever. "I could say the same," Elias replied, twisting again, landing lightly on a platform as a pulse rifle discharged near him. The shot hummed through the air, narrowly missing, the energy dissolving in a shimmer of violet sparks. He grinned, feeling the thrill of danger spike in his veins. Humans weren't the strongest, but they were audacious, inventive, and stubborn beyond measure, a combination that kept them alive on countless worlds where sheer force failed. The other Huntresses circled, watching, hissing, murmuring among themselves. Alliances shifted midair. Subtle nods and gestures exchanged in a language of honor and strategy that Elias slowly began to parse. He was learning not just how they fought, but how they thought, how they valued courage, wit, and audacity above predictable strength. Minutes stretched like hours, each move a delicate balance of instinct, calculation, and improvisation. By the time the final chime rang, signaling the end of the trial, Elias floated amid the platforms, breathing hard, arms trembling but unscathed. The Huntresses hovered still, gazed a mix of astonishment, curiosity, and grudging respect. Kilira landed beside him, eyes narrowed and lips quirking into the faintest smile. "Perhaps humans are more dangerous than we expected," she said softly. Her hand brushed against his forearm, not an attack, but acknowledgement. Elias felt a spark of something unspoken, the first flicker of trust, or perhaps something far deeper. And as he gazed at the floating silver forms of the Huntresses, he realized with a thrill, humans were special, not because of strength, but because they refused to be bound by expectation, instinct, or fear. The arena hummed with tension, potential, and promise. Elias Ryker had survived the first trial, and in doing so, had earned far more than their attention. He had earned their curiosity and the beginning of respect. Chapter 4, Shadows in the Alloy Halls. The corridors of the alien city had shifted from the ethereal beauty of morning into a twilight of electric tension. Neon filaments in the walls pulsed like a heartbeat, casting long, quivering shadows across the metallic floors. Elias moved cautiously, following Kilira through a labyrinth of alloy halls, his senses alert to every flicker of movement, every subtle hum of energy. The haven remained tethered in the docking bay above, its soft hum a comforting pulse in the otherwise alien architecture. "You must understand," Kilira said, her voice low, almost reverent. "Not all here wish you well. Some see you as an anomaly, a threat to the natural order. Others see only what you can give them." Her eyes glinted, reflecting both warning and curiosity. Elias nodded, feeling the weight of her words. Humans survived because they read danger where others only saw order, and acted before being cornered. A sudden flash of silver, a huntress too fast to react, darted from a side corridor, blade aimed at him. Elias reacted instinctively, spinning midair, kicking off a wall of biometal alloy to redirect the momentum. The blade struck the wall with a metallic clang, sparks scattering like fireflies. He landed lightly, breathing fast but uninjured. Keelira had already intercepted another, her own blade a blur as she neutralized the threat with precise efficiency. "They're testing you," she hissed, hand brushing against his arm as if to steady him. "This is how they measure potential and weakness." Elias swallowed and glanced around. The corridor stretched impossibly, reflections of alien faces flickering in the walls mirrored alloys. He realized with thrill that human cunning was what kept him alive, reading patterns, improvising moves, exploiting hesitation. The Huntresses were perfect predators, but they were bound by honor, by instinct, and humans thrive in the cracks between those bindings. The attackers increased in number, weaving through the halls like liquid steel. Elias ducked behind a conduit, then hurled a small plasma coil from his pack, which ignited with violet flare, temporarily blinding them. He darted forward, using confusion to scale the walls, vault across energy rails, and reach the central atrium. Every motion was instinct, calculation, and audacity combined, qualities the aliens had not anticipated in one so human. Keelira's voice cut through the chaos. "This is not just skill, it is spirit. You survive because you refuse to surrender." She vaulted to his side, and together they moved in a synchronized rhythm, humans and Huntresses side by side, navigating deadly precision and deadly intent alike. At the heart of the atrium, a lone figure waited, taller, darker, more imposing than the rest. One of the elder Huntresses, her armor etched with 1,000 luminescent sigils. Her gaze met Elias's, sharp and evaluating. "So, the human endures. Clever, but fragile. Let us see if your mind can withstand the next trial," she said, her words vibrating like subtle resonance in the alloy halls. Elias's pulse thrummed in rhythm with the haven above. He straightened, fists clenched, eyes bright with resolve. "I don't just survive," he said, voice steady. "I adapt, I endure, and I fight exactly the way a human should." For the first time, the corridors felt less alien, less threatening. They were a proving ground, and he, a human, had begun to carve space where none had expected him to exist. The shadows in the alloy halls were no longer enemies. They were the stage for a singular truth. Humans were extraordinary because they refused to bow to impossibility. And as the elder Huntress raised her weapon, a spark of excitement ignited in Elias's chest. Survival was only the beginning. Chapter 5, The Human Gambit. The arena above the city pulsed like a living star, transparent floors stretching into infinite space, revealing the glowing violet plains below. The Huntresses assembled in a vast semicircle, their weapons glinting, their eyes sharp and calculating. Elias stood at the center, the haven tethered directly above, its engines humming a steady heartbeat that resonated through his bones. Every instinct screamed danger, yet every fiber of him thrived on the challenge. Humans were not the strongest species, but they had audacity, cunning, and the stubbornness to bend the impossible to their will. Keelira stepped forward, her silver markings catching the twin suns' fading light. "This is the final trial," she said, her voice carrying across the arena, melodic and commanding. "Not strength, not skill, but choice. One move can save your life, or doom it." Elias glanced at her, noting the almost imperceptible tension in her shoulders. Even among her people, humans were unpredictable, and she respected that. A low hum vibrated the arena. Platforms shifted, revealing traps, floating energy mines, magnetic pulses, and walls of pulsating alloy designed to crush or isolate intruders. The Huntresses moved with precision, striking and retreating, testing his reactions. Elias felt his heart pound, the haven thrumming like a living creature above him, lending him confidence. Then the elder Huntress, the one who had cornered him in the alloy halls, appeared, her form larger and more imposing than any other. "You have survived where no human should," she said, her voice rippling through the arena. Show us why you belong in a world of warriors." Elias smiled, a brief, defiant curl of lips. He leapt into the first trap, a magnetic field designed to immobilize him. But instead of resisting, he let it pull him, then spun midair, using the force to launch toward a floating energy rail. Sparks flared where his trajectory intersected with an energy mine, and for a heartbeat, the arena seemed to hang in perfect silence. The Huntresses murmured, a symphony of astonishment. Kalira's voice whispered in his ear, "Human, insane, but effective." Elias pressed forward, improvising with every motion. He triggered traps deliberately, studying reactions, learning patterns, exploiting hesitation. The other Huntresses, bound by honor and instinct, adapted too slowly. He ducked, twisted, and vaulted, using ingenuity where brute strength would have failed. Finally, he reached the central platform. Standing beneath the haven, palms pressed against the console to stabilize the ship. The energy hum resonated through him. The elder Huntress stepped closer, eyes bright with recognition. "Clever, bold. You are not merely surviving. You are teaching us something new." She lowered her weapon, then nodded sharply. "The human gambit, it works." Kalira extended a hand, not in combat, but in alliance. "You have done more than survive, Elias Ryker. You've proven that humans are special." He exhaled, feeling the weight of tension lift. The haven pulsed gently above him, a living testament to human ingenuity, audacity, and resilience. Around him, the Huntresses shifted from cautious opponents to intrigued allies, their eyes gleaming with newfound respect. Elias laughed softly, the sound echoing in the arena. "Special enough to survive your trials and keep flying my ship." He glanced at Kalira, who tilted her head, a subtle smile forming. The alliance, and perhaps something deeper, was forged not by brute strength, but by adaptability, cunning, and a uniquely human refusal to surrender. The arena's lights dimmed, leaving the twin suns' glow reflecting off alien alloys, as if the universe itself had paused to acknowledge a human who had dared and won. Chapter 6. Among the Huntresses, a human stands. The violet plain stretched endlessly beneath the floating city, bathed in the dual glow of the twin suns. Above, the haven hovered like a protective sentinel, its engines vibrating softly, a heartbeat Elias had come to trust. Around him, the Huntresses gathered in a semicircle, their weapons lowered, their eyes reflecting something new. Not fear, not rivalry, but respect. Elias Ryker, human among them, had survived trials no one thought possible, and in doing so, he had rewritten their understanding of courage, ingenuity, and audacity. Kalira stepped forward, her live form glinting silver in the alien sunlight. "You have done more than endure," she said, voice ringing clear over the plains. "You have shown us that humans are not just survivors. They are catalysts, unpredictable and brilliant." Her gaze softened as she looked at him, curiosity tempered with admiration. Elias felt a subtle weight of connection, of trust forged in fire and floating platforms, in battles of mind and body alike. From the ranks of Huntresses, murmurs rose, questions, awe, and finally, nods of acceptance. One by one, they approached him, not as adversaries, but as peers acknowledging a warrior's worth. Elias felt a surge of pride, tempered with humility. Humans were fragile by design, yet capable of adaptation, improvisation, and audacity that few species could anticipate. It was why they had survived worlds that had chewed up stronger, faster, more alien beings. Kalira's hand brushed against his arm, not as a challenge, but as recognition. "Will you remain among us?" she asked softly, "or return to the stars that bore you?" Elias glanced upward at the haven, the ship that had carried him across impossible voids, and then at the alien warriors around him. "I will remain," he said, voice steady, eyes bright with purpose. "Not because I must, but because there's more to learn and more to protect. He felt a thrill of exhilaration as the Huntresses murmured in agreement, a harmony of acceptance and curiosity. The elder Huntress from the trial stepped forward, her towering form intimidating yet reverent. "You are more than clever, human," she said, her voice a vibration in the alloy planes. "You are unbound by expectation, a mind capable of seeing what others cannot. Among us, you are no longer just a survivor. You are a leader, a symbol of potential." Elias's chest tightened as he realized the truth in her words. Humans had always been underestimated, dismissed as weak or fragile. Yet here he stood, in the heart of alien culture, having survived, adapted, and thrived. His mind had turned instinct against instinct, audacity against precision, and ingenuity against honor. It had worked, not because he was the strongest, but because he was human. Kalira smiled then, just faintly, and Elias felt the first real flicker of something beyond camaraderie, the spark of connection, the unspoken possibility of partnership, perhaps even something deeper. Around them, the alien city shimmered, reflecting the light of their shared victory. The haven thrummed above like a loyal heartbeat, echoing the pulse of potential, courage, and new beginnings. Elias exhaled slowly, letting the tension drain from his body. The trials were over, but the adventure had only begun. Among the Huntresses, a human stood, not merely surviving, but standing tall, forging bonds, rewriting expectations, and proving that audacity, adaptability, and spirit could make even the smallest species extraordinary. He glanced at Kalira again, the alien skyline reflecting in her eyes. "Humans," he said softly, "we survive, and sometimes we thrive." She tilted her head, a subtle smile playing across her lips. "Yes, human," she said, voice like a promise. "And sometimes we astonish." Above them, the haven purred softly, engines harmonized with the beat of alien hearts. The stars waited, but for now, the human had a place among them. The haven floated serenely above the neon-lit sprawl of the alien city, engines humming a gentle, reassuring rhythm. Beyond the transparent viewport, constellations unfamiliar to human eyes shimmered like scattered jewels, while the twin suns dipped low, casting violet and gold reflections across metallic towers. Elias stood at the edge of the docking platform, Kalira beside him, her silver markings glinting in the dying light. Around them, the Huntresses, once adversaries, now allies, moved with quiet reverence, giving the human space to claim what it earned, not just survival, but respect. Elias's hand hovered near the ship's console, feeling the pulse of the haven, the heartbeat of human ingenuity made real. Kalira reached for his hand, her touch light but insistent, bridging worlds and species. "You've changed everything," she said softly, her eyes reflecting both awe and something deeper. "Not just for me, but for all of us." He met her gaze, the weight of trials, battles, and impossible odds lifting in the silence. "Humans survive," he murmured, voice steady, "because we refuse to surrender. But sometimes we thrive because we refuse to walk alone." The alien city shimmered beneath them, alive with movement and light, yet it felt still, time itself holding its breath to honor this moment. Elias and Kalira stepped closer, hands entwined. Two beings from different worlds united by courage, choice, and audacity. Around them, the Huntresses watched, a silent chorus acknowledging the extraordinary in the ordinary, a human who had dared, endured, and inspired. Above, the haven pulsed once more, a soft, steady heartbeat. Elias exhaled, eyes bright with possibility. The stars waited, but for now, humanity had a place here, among allies, among the extraordinary, and he was not alone.